let's get into it. Guardians, Solflare fam, welcome to workshop number 8, where we're gonna be going over X Spaces. I am gonna be your host, SolQuicks, on SolQuicks on Twitter, part of the marketing team here at Solflare, also known as the Solflare Fox, because I do literally anything that's needed for the company. But today specifically, we're gonna be working on Spaces on X. For those that don't know what Spaces on X are, they're essentially live audio podcasts where anyone can join, anyone can listen, and people can request to come up on stage and speak. They've been really impactful in our crypto community, and there's a lot of value in the spaces when done right. So let's get into it. So what are we doing here today? Let's talk about the main mission statement is to empower the Solflare Guardians to become skilled and confident, impactful hosts, speakers, and participants. So even if you're in the audience, there's a certain etiquette that we're gonna go over everything in X Spaces. Our goal is to enhance Solflare's presence, obviously, improve our reputation through authentic, well-led conversations that reflect our values and our culture at Solflare. So the main objectives is that we're gonna be teaching you guys how to host and participate in X Spaces with confidence and professionalism, improve the consistency and quality of your Guardian-run spaces. We're gonna go over representing Solflare in a positive way without just shilling just download Solflare. There's more value in the nonchalant approach to it. We're gonna be building a pipeline of capable hosts, teaching you guys how to build your communities. Also, as far as reaching out to guests for scheduling. And also we're gonna expand, our voice in the ecosystem, because the more Guardians that we have hosting fun, engaging, educational spaces, the more that builds the Solflare brand. We can't be everywhere at once. We rely on our community to carry the message and do the work. And there's a lot of opportunities in hosting spaces. So for the exact agenda, how it's gonna go down, there's 3 things we're gonna cover. The preparation, because like everything in life, you have to be prepared for it. So we're gonna go over actually scheduling the space, marketing your space, booking your guests, and preparing the content. We're gonna go over the execution, the tools that are available for hosts and speakers, the etiquette for spaces, moderating the space, your interaction with speakers and the rapport you're creating, and your audience engagement. So everything that's going on all throughout the show. And then probably the most important thing is we're gonna go over the post-space work, playback, analytics, engagement and follow-ups, and how you're able to turn these services into monetization if you are looking to seek that. Otherwise, you can just keep going out and hosting amazing spaces. So let's Fox and go. Let's get into it. First, I gotta go over the basics. So how do you start a space on Twitter, right? Before you even do, the things that you wanna keep in mind is you wanna stay consistent and choosing a time that's either weekly or bi-weekly that you can commit to every single week or bi-week, without exception, because as soon as you miss that first one, it starts snowballing and falling off and you just miss every other one. So it's super important to choose a time that's gonna work for you, because as you're scheduling the guests, you're gonna be able to schedule them in advance so they'll be able to make their schedule work for your space. You also want to schedule the space in advance, which we're going to go over in the future, not only from your personal, but when you're booking guests. You never want to schedule a space 24 hours in advance and ask the guest to show up the next day. That's so unprofessional. But how do you actually create the X space? So in the tab on Twitter, when you press that the menu, you'll see the spaces. When you click that, there's it'll take you to all the spaces that are going on right there, but there's a bottom right, a little plus sign where you can control your own space. This is what's going to show up. So you're going to title your space. You're gonna enter in the information. You're gonna choose the topics that are most prevalent to the space, because this is for the algorithm. It's gonna help show people what the space is about if you're just titling it the Moon Show. All right, well, what's the Moon Show about? It's about NFTs, entertainment, and education. You're gonna wanna record your space. Always click record, because you'll never know the content that'll come afterwards. And then X also has a feature where you can enable video, but we're not gonna go over that today because that's more of an advanced feature and it's really glitchy. After you go, you have the ability to start the space right now, but you're gonna click the little schedule button right here, which will take you to the next page where you'll choose the date and the time. It'll be reflective in whatever time zone you're in. So also be wary if you're using a VPN, because it'll try to schedule the time for that as well. And then once you click schedule, you'll be shown to the confirmation page where you're gonna get to be able to copy the link. You can post directly, DM it, share. So you definitely wanna make sure you're copying this link, because that's what we're gonna use for marketing. When you go back to start your space and you go back to spaces and you click the little plus sign on the bottom to start a space, At the top up here, there's going to be a little calendar. If you have a scheduled space already and you would click that, you'll be able to see all your spaces and then you can go ahead and start the space. So pretty straightforward process on X. But now that we've created the space, let's talk about marketing your space, okay? Because something that you want to do is promote your space leading up to it, especially if you're bringing on guests. So you want to make an announcement of your space. I brought my announcement and also the more professional Solflare one. You want to make sure that you're announcing like when your space is, like what your space is, highlight your guests, including your time, and you want to make sure that you're adding a graphic visual to the post with the link to the space below it. This is super important that Callahan went over. You don't want to put links, especially outside links in the post on X on the first post. If you are going to post a link and it is on X like a space or a stream, you want to post it in the first reply right underneath, and everyone knows that they can just watch it. You can make a little arrow to point down or something, but most people will know to set your reminder below to look for the bottom space. Little Foxy pro tip: it's really important that you make this post ahead of time because you can pin it to your profile if you want to make sure that you're marketing it from your own personal, but it's also great to pin this when you're attending other spaces. So we'll go over how to pin it at the top. But for those that know, when you go into another space and you're given the speaker role, you have the ability to pin a post to the top of the space. This wants to be the post that you want to pin. You don't want to pin like a token or a giveaway. You want to be promoting your brand. So you want to have your post with your space that you can go into other spaces to be like, look, I'm not here to sell you guys a token. I'm not here to show you guys anything. I'm just trying to grow my brand and I'm running a space this Thursday at 10 p.m. I would be honored if anyone can stop by. I'm going to go ahead and pin the reminder up to the top. If you can't make it, I'd appreciate a like and a repost just so we can get some more people eyes on it. You know, that's like a great marketing tool that every Spaces host is going to be cool with. You know, if you come in and you're asking to set a reminder for your space, is a lot better than trying to, you know, oh, I want to pin about my token, or even the Solflare Guardians community, you know, like trying to get people to join the community. Sometimes that can kind of be seen as like a shilling unless they're directly asking about it. So super important to have this ready to go. And then finally, ask your guests to cross promote. If they have a Discord, if they have a Telegram, ask them, be like, hey, would you be okay with sending this out to your community? So that, you know, the more eyes that you have, the more people that are viewing your posts and setting their reminders. That's like the first goal of marketing, is getting as many reminders set for your space as possible. And you also want to repost it at least 24 hours before. We also repost a reminder about an hour before, but that's like however much that you want to put into it. Okay, so now let's talk about booking guests, because this is extremely important for how you're representing Solflare, because it's so bearish to try to book a guest for like a space tomorrow or like on Friday this week. Like, you want to book a guest at least 1 week in advance minimum. And when you're booking a guest, you want to get their email, which is super important because you want to be able to send them a calendar invite. But also you want to make sure that you have their contact information for a later point so that you can follow up with them. But an email with a Google Calendar invite is so important. So many people in Web3 at higher up positions like live off of their Google Calendar, you know? So if it's not on their calendar, they're most likely going to forget and not going to show up. You also want to prepare a content agenda. And we're going to go over the preparation of content agenda in the next slide, but you also want to email this agenda to the person of contact who's going to be joining the space so that they can approve. They can make any changes, they can ask any questions about it, because you don't want to like sideline a project with a question that they're not prepared to answer, or that it's like too dicey to talk about, or it's like alpha that, you know, it breaks like NDAs. There's a lot of things that they're just not that they're unwilling to talk about, but it would just either break NDAs or go against like what they're trying, you know, like they're not ready to release that information yet. So make sure that you send them over agenda ahead of time, confirm the speaker name and their title in the company, and ask if the project account can attend. So if you're booking Solflare, for example, and you talk to Maki, ask Maki if he's going to be able to attend, but also if the Solflare account, main account, is going to be able to attend. Explain to them that, you know, you'll bring them up on stage. It's good for visibility. You're going to be able to remind people to like and follow the page. But also, it's going to help with your algorithm, because when a large profile page is up on the stage, the larger the speakers, the more verified accounts that you have with badges, the more visibility that you get on your space. But we're going to talk to it more about that on the execution. Right now, we're still talking about like booking the guests and the build up. You want to confirm if there's any call to action items. For example, we have SNS on our show. We're running the LFG campaign. That's something that you want to make sure you work into the agenda and you highlight. If there's anything that's currently going on for people to be joining the Discord or taking part of like anything in their ecosystem, you want to make sure that you're highlighting their call to action. You also want to inquire about a giveaway. Spaces are the biggest when they're doing giveaways of free stuff. You know, there's just like, once you break the 50 listener, the 100 listener, like those are walls. You're able to break those by doing like giveaways, by reminding people to like and repost and engage and having like a fun, engaging space. But a lot of people are gonna show up for the giveaways, which is cool because if you're making good content, they're gonna stay for the giveaway and then keep showing back up for the content. But you wanna ask to like cross promote the giveaway, like not only cross promote the space, but see if you can kind of cross promote the giveaway. You could be like, hey, I'm gonna be doing a $10 giveaway of SNS token on the space. I would be so happy if you could either match it or if you wanted to include a giveaway. Don't feel obligated to, but I'm trying to grow my space and my brand and get eyes on, you know, my page and grow my market value. So I'm gonna be doing a giveaway. 9 times out of 10, almost 99.999% of the time, the project's gonna be like, we're gonna match the giveaway, we're gonna add to it, don't worry about it, we're gonna do a giveaway, or they're just gonna have so much respect that you're actually doing that to like reinvest in yourself to grow the space. It's super bullish, and it's something that you can do more when you monetize, reinvest back into your space. But if you have the ability to do any type of giveaways, they're always a great way to help like grow your space at an exponential rate. If you are gonna be doing giveaways, you wanna be incentivizing to set the reminders, like and repost of the space, reminder of the space, comment on everything. Commenting is key for the algorithm. So even if you're choosing a winner, you wanna make sure they like, they repost, they comment, they follow the pages, they put the full effort into promoting your space. So quick, also little Foxy pro tips. Use friendly, non-aggressive comms for communication. It's like when you're trying to book someone for a show, you want to propose to them times, but if they don't get back to you in like the first like 10 minutes, you're not going to keep following up with them message, like, can it Friday? Are you good? Like you want to be professional. Ideally, you'll be going back to the workshops that like we've worked on before and using the same principles that Maki has taught you about cold DMing to apply for the same way to reach out to book guests. You want to stay professional, you want to be concise, you want to tell them like the date, the time, what you're going to be covering. You can get an agenda to them, and you want to make sure that you're getting the email so that you can send them the confirmation for the schedule, and like you actually like put it on a Google Calendar schedule with the time. You can include the link for the space and also, but you also want to make sure that you're recording all your analytics and your links from your spaces. Keep like a Google Note or a notes on your phone of your links of all your spaces. This is like your own little like repertoire of everything. You're gonna be able to go back to these later dates for content, for either clipping. They're gonna be able to record these analytics later when you're creating a pitch deck. When you want to monetize your service, you want to be able to show in the past 3 months, I've had 20,000 listeners, like 1,500 reposts, like this amount of views, like you want to be able to speak to these analytics if you are creating like a pitch deck, because like now you're trying to sell your service. But we're going to go over that in the future. Creating content about the guests leading up to the space is also a super cool way that you can be building a rapport with your guests. So for example, you have SNS coming up, you make a thread about like creating a domain on SNS or a video on how you just like secured your own domain. And if you guys want to learn more, make sure that you're setting your reminder for our space. The projects love it because it's great for, content. It's great to help build up for your space. And also you want to send guests the reminder 48 hours in advance. Again, just as like a friendly reminder, confirm with them right before you're about to send out your reminder post. You want to just confirm with them again to make sure that they're all still good. Because a lot of the times something will happen, guests are gonna cancel, things are gonna come up. This past week, I just had to reschedule because of flight change. So, it happens, but at least 48 hours in advance, you have that confirmation, you're able to make some adjustments, and then you can like still run a successful space. All right, so next, let's talk about preparing the content, the agenda. And I want to hop off this really quick for a second to show you guys what I mean. So this is like my agenda for last week's space. I have the whole introduction. We have 11 a.m. S&S starts with everything that we're going to be going over. The switch to the screen share, what I'm going to be buying in the orange, the switch back to the normal cameras, all the questions, time for review and A, the switch back. 12 p.m. Zeus starts, going over with him, the screen share, what we're gonna be buying. Like, I have everything down to the time, the questions, and everything that, like, if something goes wrong, there's a contingency plan and something to fall back on. So you don't have to go as hard as I do for these, but the more preparation that you do, the more engaging, insightful questions that you prepare, the better your space is gonna be. And you also have to keep in mind that as you're creating the agenda, you want to be organizing the flow of the conversation and the time management. Time management is so important. You can ask one question to Tommy, who's going to answer it in like a normal 1 to 2 minutes, but that same question asked to Maki is going to be 6 to 7 minutes. And it's not that like it's just how their speaking style is and what they choose to go over. But you have to be mindful of the time and also be aware of what's being answered, because in that 6 minutes that Maki just gave you an answer, he probably answered like 3 more of your questions, you know? So you have to be mindful of that, because then if you re-ask the next question and he just went over, you know, like, oh, joining the Guardians, and then the next question, and then he goes over something else, and then your next question is, so tell us about joining the Guardians. It's like, well, he kind of just talked about that, and he'll talk about it again, but you want to like take advantage of that time to ask like a more engaging question that hasn't been spoken on yet. So controlling the time, this is like where also you're going to be coming in as a host. We're going to talk about on the execution part of this, but as a host, you're going to be using time management. You also want to work into your agenda, your resets. Your resets are your reminders during the show to like and repost the room, comment, hit up the call to action item, which is where you want to highlight your CTA, and then also remind everyone of the giveaway. You want to do about 3 of these a show, so about like every 15 to 20 minutes, you want to do a quick reset. And also during that reset, make it a point to remind the viewers to follow you and to follow the main page account. You always want to shout out the main page account. When you're doing the giveaways, we went over it's for repost, comments, follows, but make sure that you're screening for bots. If you're gonna choose a winner for the giveaway, you're not using some like random Twitter picker or something, you know, and you want to actually choose someone because you're checking to see like who reposted, who comment, screen that it's not a bot. Screen that it's not an account that's just literally posting giveaways all day, like repost for 1.1 soul. Like try to like pick someone that hit all the cues and is like not a bot that's like a real user. Sometimes that's hard, and sometimes if you're using Twitter picker, it's gonna do it anyway. But if you have any ability, it's gonna like just be more successful because that person's gonna post about winning it afterwards, and that's great for your content. You wanna make sure that you're leaving time for Q&A. So ideally, you'd like to control the AMA for like the first portion of the show before you kick it over to other speakers. This is your space, this is your guest, this is your AMA. You prepared the agenda. Let's go through everything you wanna go through first, and then we'll save time for Q&A at the end. You also wanna make sure you're choosing a co-host before the space. We'll go over more about the what specifics that come with a co-host. And you also want to engage the co-host in the agenda, especially if you guys are building like a show together or a podcast. Those questions, you want to make sure that you set aside questions. So if I'm co-hosting a space with Witty or Marky, I want to make sure I have 2 questions and then Witty has 2 questions. And then I have 2 questions and then Witty has 2 questions. And then we're going to go back and forth. And it just makes for better flow, and you're including everyone else. When you're sending the agenda to the guests, it's a Google document. You send it to their email. Make sure that you're allowing access to them and give them the editor role in your Google documents so that they can make any changes or additions. And in everything, you want to be professional but fun. You know, like that's the whole thing. Like education and entertainment is the key to a successful space. And then leading up to that, even preparing for the guests, making sure that you're presenting everything professionally, but in a fun, engaging way, that they're excited to show up to this space. Like, oh, he's already made a video about us. He's created this whole agenda. Like he's got the reminders set. Like we're cross-promoting this in our community. He's offering to do a giveaway. Like what other spaces hosts are doing that? Go above and beyond to separate yourself as any other spaces host. All right. So let's actually talk about like actually hosting the space. We went over a little bit about the mindset. You want to have positivity, good energy, and be engaging. It's like ideally a perfect mixture of being professional and a bit of degen. you know? So like you want to have like the degen mannerisms, but still like this is professional. You don't want to be like fox that, you know, it's okay to like curse here and there, but you know, I'm always trying to be like on a higher level, you know? You want to make sure that you're moderating your guests, the speakers, and the time. So what does this mean? First, you like kind of like you're screening your giveaway winners. You're also screening your speakers, okay? Because there's a lot of people that are gonna come up that are just like there to kind of like they have their own agenda. They want to come in and like post random things to the top or just start screaming or just because they don't care about your space. They're just doing it for their own selfish being. So you want to make sure you're bringing up speakers that like ideally are following you, that you've seen before, you know, that you've had some sort of an interaction with. Because again, like it's like almost like a reflection of your space. You know, if people come up and start posting porn links to the top, which I've seen in spaces do, because you haven't screened this like random person on the timeline, you're just letting anyone come up to your stage. That's something that you have to be important with. Another thing that you're moderating is your speakers, and your guest is the hand. You know, you don't want people just like talking out of like things. I do it all the time because like I'm an OG, but ideally you're always wanting to raise the hand, and hosts have a tool that we're gonna be going over in a second that can help with moderating that. But what's also really important is this is an opportunity to build rapport with your guests and your audience. You want to make sure that you're engaging with the audience. You know, you're thanking them for the comments, shouting out anyone that you see down in the audience, you know, thank them for listening. But you want to make sure that you're using the name of your guest. This is one of my most important tips, is if you're hosting a space with like Witty or Maki, every time that you address them, you want to say Witty, I want to, you know, or like Maki. Like nothing is sweeter than the sound of someone's name. And especially like these Web3 pseudonyms that we create, like being able to be hearing your name, it builds a rapport, it builds that connection. And that's important because they remember that later on, you know, it's really important. You want to be supportive, and if you do get those like FUD and those bots and like the audience and stuff, just ignore them. Just don't even respond to them. Don't even pay them any attention, because like any attention that you give them or any interaction that you give them is just going to like push them up in the algorithm. So it's just better to just like ignore them. And one of the most important things that you could be doing in this space is when someone makes a take and they answer your question, don't just be like, okay, great. So now like, what do we think about? No, like take a moment to respond to what they just said. Like a great thing to do is pick one point of something that they talked about and roll it back to you. Like how that like personal insight from you on how this can be related. So like, Maki will go on and talk about, you know, the Guardians and, you know, the workshops that we're doing and, you know, how like the Guardians are running spaces and things about that. And then I'll go back and be like, man, I really love what you're doing with the community. Especially my favorite part is the workshops. I've been attending them. I think that they're super awesome. The fact that you said you're posting them on YouTube, making them available for everyone, that's an awesome strategy for growing your community. You know, you're taking something that he said from the point, you're personalizing it, and you're doubling down on a positive way. This is building a rapport and showing that you're engaging and listening to the conversation, not just thinking about the next question. All right. So now, as far as the execution, there's a little bit of strategy. So let's talk about the tools at your disposal. If you're a host or a co-host, you have the ability to mute people. So you can mute all the speakers, or you can click on a speaker and individually mute them. So if someone's talking over or someone has a hot mic, you can click on their profile and mute them. If complete chaos has just broken up and people are talking over each other, smash that mute everyone and take control back of your space. This is your space. You are in control. If they don't like it, they can leave. Chances are they want to be a speaker in your space because they don't want to run the space on their own, but they still want the attention, you know? But don't give it to them, you know? This is your space. You're controlling the pace, and that mute button is an extremely powerful tool. You also have the ability to remove speakers from the speaking role and also from the space. So if people are just completely like outlandish, you can remove them from the space entirely. They can't join back. Or you can cycle them down back to listener. This is super important because you're capped out at a certain amount of speakers. Down here, when you're adding speakers, if you see, for 2 co-hosts, you're allowed 11 speakers. So you have the host, the co-host, the other co-host, and then 11 other speakers. So at a certain point, if you need to bring up more people, you're gonna have to cycle them down. If they're unwilling to leave on their own, you can cycle them down yourself and bring someone up, because you'll see a request button of everyone that's requesting to come up. When you're moderating, again, control the conversation. Require the hands. It's a great way and tool when you're first starting out in spaces and you haven't developed like a core panel of speakers yet that just are in good synergy, that don't need to use the hands, that are just able to talk like and hop in those little like lapses of conversation. Require the hands. And then go to the hands. And then we're gonna talk about people that are speakers like later on as far as like etiquette. But again, reminder of your time. You know, like time management is key, because like a 1 hour space with like 2 people that go over talking like 10 minutes can turn into a 2 hour space. And you always wanna keep your space, especially in AMA, within an hour to an hour and a half tops. And that's like if the guest knows that it might run over a little bit an hour. Generally, most Twitter spaces are 1 hour, okay? So try to keep it in there and be mindful of your guest time on that. Resets we went over every 15 to 20 minutes, 3 of them during the show, like, repost, comment, and giveaway for the CTA. Rapport, using the names, engaging the comments, engaging the audience, and bro, hype up your guests. Like, be proud that you have like Maki or SNS up here. Make sure to make it like a point, you know, that like of how hyped you are to have them here. But at the end of the day, the most authentic spaces win. You need to create your own style and do it with confidence. You know, be confident in the space. And more confidence is gonna come when you listen back to your spaces. I know so many Guardians that you're hosting spaces, and I know for a fact you're not listening back. Listen back, record the space, and listen back to everything that you're saying. I know that it's cringe sometime, and I know that it sucks to hear yourself, but it's gonna make you better. You're gonna catch on so many different things, you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna improve, and it's gonna help to build confidence. So please, listen back to your spaces. And again, like the perfect tip for a space is like a balance between education and entertainment. You wanna make sure that you're educating about the platform, but we're doing it in like a fun, engaging way, okay? Not everything just has to be drone on about the utilities or, you know, like how, like, you know, this, like you wanna make it like fun, add some like Web3 jokes, add some like personal experience that you had using the website. Engage with the audience a little bit to make sure that they're still like with it. Like, let me see some emojis if you guys are bullish on securing your domains. Oh man, I'm not seeing any emojis. I'm seeing Ginzu down there throwing a thumbs down. Shout out Ginzu. You know, like engage with the audience, you know, use them by their name, ask them to like post, ask them to comment. They're gonna do it. But again, balance of education and entertainment. Okay, now that we've gone over like executing a space, now the real work for post-space work begins, because this is how you're gonna further build your brand and possibly monetize your account in the future. You 100% wanna make sure that you're following up with guests. Like that's like the first thing that you wanna do, like an hour, even like an hour or two after the space. You wanna make sure while everything's still fresh, thank the guests for joining, highlight a key moment, again, to build that human connection. Because at the end of the day, ideally, you're gonna get to some of these IRL events, you're gonna see these people at these IRL events, and then that connection from online becomes real. And if you've already built up that human connection, it just like solidifies that relationship. They're like, oh, I love you in spaces, man. You know, Quicks, you know, oh, remember that space that we did with so-and-so? Like that all comes from the build of the human connection. You know, using their name, hyping them up on something that they did right. You wanna make sure that you're professional when you're asking them if it's okay to contact them in the future. You know, like I had a great time, you know, in the future as you guys are more advanced, and again, refer back to something that they're doing with their project. If they said that later this year they're gonna release this, I'd love to circle back when you release this tool and let's talk about having you on for another space. And then also something that's a great idea that a lot of people don't do is ask them for guest referrals. If they had a good time and you feel that you built up enough of a connection, ask them, is there any other projects that you would recommend or that you work with that like would love to come on my space? I'm trying to build my brand. As you can see, I ran a great show. We had this many listeners, you know, your community loved it. Is there any other projects or anyone else that you can refer to me that I can reach out to schedule a guest? You'd be surprised the kind of projects and contacts that you'll be put in touch with if you do a good job. And again, listening back to your space, learning from your mistakes. This is also a great opportunity to timestamp. If you want to create clips, video is king. So creating clips, like Marky does a great job of this. Shout out Marky. He goes back, he timestamps the clips, he'll clip them, he'll add the subtitles of just his PFP, and he sends those videos, little 30-second clips, 1-minute clips of just the content. It's great to help grow your brand. It really is. And then I don't know why I put tagging guests, but, oh, tagging the guests in the content that you create. So if you do create a clip with the guests, make sure that you're tagging them so that ideally, you know, they would have engaged with your content before the space, engaged with the reminder of the space, engaged with the space itself, and then engaged with the post-space giveaway or the post-space content. So, you know, the more that this account's engaging with you, again, the larger accounts that are engaging with you, the better that is for your account to boost you up the algorithm. When you're ready to monetize, you're gonna wanna create a pitch deck. You know, you wanna be professional. You don't wanna just be like, oh, it's like, you know, I'm running a space, it's $50 for a space. You wanna create like an actual pitch deck with visuals that go over your services, your different sponsorship tiers. So for example, you know, if you wanna sponsor one space, it's $50. If you wanna sponsor the month, it's $150. If you wanna sponsor 3 months, it would be $400. So there's price breaks for the longer commitments, you know what I mean? And like it's like you're giving them a discount. But at the end of the day, anything that you're getting for spaces, you know, is a great start because you're hosting them for free. But what you want to do then is reinvest back into your space. If you're able to monetize the space, don't just spend it to like pay your bills or off ramp it to go buy yourself some lunch. Use it for equipment, get some new AirPods, some new like microphone, you know, like better computer, or use it for promotional giveaways back into your space. That's how you're able to come back and talk to the project and be like, I have a budget of $20 that I'm gonna use to buy your token or buy your NFT, and I'm gonna use it just as a giveaway because like I want to genuinely grow the space. Now that's how you're able to do it, you know? And you can also kind of work that into your sponsorship tiers as well. So as you get more advanced, if you do need help creating a pitch deck, reach out to me. I'll show you the one I use. I'll help you with yours. But guys, there is a potential to monetize this in the future, but it takes professionalism, it takes consistency, and it takes like the work, putting in the work, as you can see, before the space, during the space, and after the space. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And let's go over really quick some spaces etiquette that I didn't get a chance to go over to, but I wanted to make sure I set this aside because this is like super important. The first, as you guys all know, I hate this more than anything. When you come on as a speaker, don't GM everyone. Dude, just don't do it. Don't come on stage and be like, GM Tommy, GM Marky, GM Ginzu, GM Quicks, GM Solflare. Bro, that is so bearish, dude, because in our spaces, we let it fly. But when you go to these like Pingu spaces, Amy Street spaces, all these like Alex Schillen villain spaces, bro, he's literally just gonna mute you and remove you from speaker in the first 6 seconds. You know what I mean? You're not even gonna have a chance. Also, don't ask if you're audible. If they can't hear you on mic, they're gonna tell you. Just go straight into your take. Just be like, yo, appreciate you bringing me up, Alex, man. Wanted to talk about this creator capital market because what so-and-so said before is extremely bullish, and I wanted to double down on this part because what I believe, and then you go into your take, you know what I mean? So always use people by names. Raise your hand and ask to speak. Be brave to hit that request button. Go into spaces and be brave to hit that request, raise your hand, and make your take, dude. The worst part is they're not gonna call on you, they're gonna skip over you, but guess what? If you're on stage in a space with your hand raised, people are seeing you, chances are you're gonna get some follows, and you know, it's just like a more professional thing to do. Be mindful of your time when you're speaking, dude. If you get called on to make a take, don't go off for like 8 minutes. Don't go off on like a 10-minute tangent, dude. That's like so selfish. It's so narcissistic, bro. Like, you just want to hear yourself talk, and you're taking advantage of someone else's space that they're running, you know, that they're hosting with their own time and their own Wi-Fi and account, and you're gonna like piggyback off of that to go on like an 8-minute talk about yourself and like your view on everything. Bearish. Be mindful of your time, and host, if people are taking advantage of your time, smash that mute button on them. Be real with them, dude. Tell them, like, you know, you've been talking for 5 minutes now, you know, like, and I got to get to other people in the space, you know. I appreciate your thoughts on this, dude, but we're going to keep it moving. You know, like, that's okay. That's okay to be, like, you know, firm in, like, a fair way. When you're listening back, you're all going to hear it. I do it all the time. Something I'm still working on. Try your best not to use filler words. Like, those are, like, the biggest culprits. I just did it right now. It helps a lot when you slow down and you listen back to your spaces, and as you slow down your speech, you become more conscious not to use liker, and it just gradually improves and you're able to speed it up in the future. It still slips up, but something that you should be mindful of, because again, that's again, to the professional level. And you want to also always be positive and address speakers by their name. I cannot stress the importance of that enough. Like, using the name of speakers, any chance that you get, will help build that rapport and human connection. Just the simple sound of hearing your name just makes you so much more bullish on whoever's speaking and addressing you. You know, again, super important. And one of the most important things that, like, I just want to highlight my last closing statement that Maki said, like, this is super important. All these workshops aren't as valuable, like, individually. Like, there are a lot of things that you can learn from, like, this workshop and previous work, but, like, it's a culmination of all the workshops. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of things I was talking about today with, like, professionalism and communication makes a lot more sense when you attended the previous workshops. So these are super important. If you haven't already, check back and rewatch some of these workshops because they're so valuable. I know that we're posting them on YouTube and, like, on Twitter and stuff, dude, but, like, make sure that you're taking advantage of these, man. Like, there's so much value and information in these, and it really helps make sense for future workshops, you know, to, like, do the prerequisite workshops in the past. But Guardians, you got my heart, man. I love you guys so much. You've been absolutely crushing it, killing it on the timeline, improving on content. We talked about this in the other day on Space for the progress report, but progress check, but I'm so proud of you guys, man. Keep up the hard work. Reach out with anything that you need with Spaces or any questions that you have I didn't get a chance to go over today. Reach out to me. I'm here the rest of the day. Thank you guys, truly, from the bottom of my foxy heart. Thank you for doing what you guys do and for representing Solflare, man. We're going to change the world and onboard 1 billion people, and you guys are all part of this journey together. So thank you so much.